Today's episode is brought to you by Altoids because, let's face it, navigating the dating world isn't easy, but with Altoids, your breath will be stronger than the urge to text.
You up at 1 a.m. More intense than a rose ceremony and more reliable than your bestie's questionable dating tips.
Like, do the simple things. Make sure that you have fresh breath wherever you go, and you got to do it with Altoids. Altoids is your sidekick in dating. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you have fresh breath. There is no bigger turnoff than stale, stinky, rotten breath.
It's also so easy because I feel like with gum, you always either, hey, I've like a wrapper you got to throw away, or you're like the gum gets nasty and you're like, where can I throw this gum away? With an Altoid, it's just so easy to throw in your bag, so easy to just dissolve in your mouth, chew it up, fresh breath immediately.
Altoids is the strong, reliable, and intense boost of freshness that young professionals and single minglers need to be their authentic selves in daily life. When walking into a high-stakes moment, if you have Altoids, your breath is one less thing you have to think about. When it comes to needing confidence and security to show up as your original self, Altoids has you covered.
They're not just mints, they're curiously strong mints.
Find Altoids in the checkout aisles. Grab your 10 today.
You're crazy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another ridiculously awesome episode of the Viall Files Ask Nick edition. I am your host, Nick, joined by the household of Leia, also known as Scooter, by the way. For Leia, sweet boy Justin, Allie. What's going on, everybody?
Not too much.
Yeah. Doing good.
Okay.
What's going on with you?
How's it being a husband?
Being a husband's awesome. Being a dad's awesome. A little bit of wedding drama with our vendors. It's just disappointing. It's really amazing how some people in the wedding industry, they're just hell-bent on how they do business regardless of how it impacts your wedding.
I mean, I will say something you said in our GD episode with Ava Max was wedding vendors, most of them aren't focused on having you come back. They're just focused on that one-off.
True.
And that like spoke a lot.
Yeah, I also feel like with weddings, you get to a point where you're just like, whatever, I don't care how much it costs. I just need this to be done.
Well, yeah, and they know that.
And they know that and they take advantage of it.
They take an advantage of you. It's like an industry that has, I think a lot of vendors get notes from each other, in terms of how to do things. And it's just like, the mentality always like, they're always demanding their money. Pay me now. They have all these outs. It's like, you got to pay so much in advance. They can like cancel at any time. And you always hear, well, like, this is how it is. And this is how it is. And like, it's only that way because like they learn from other vendors in that space. They're always protecting themselves. And I mean, I get it. Like, but they so much so that it affects your wedding. Some of the vendors have like a great impact on like your memories of your wedding and things like that. So it was wild to me. I'm not yet sure I'm willing to like call out the certain other vendors yet. And it's frustrating too, because especially on our end, like I think people look for us for recommendations. What was our experience? At the same time, I think we have to be careful with those recommendations, because I think they come with a lot of weight and power. Sometimes I think now that I feel like we almost can't defend ourselves because of like, well, should we really say anything or not? Like when we talked about the hairstylist, like we obviously didn't mention their name because we felt like that was a bridge too far,
Yeah.
Other people were just like, fucking tell us the motherfucker's name or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know. But like our photographer, Sarah, we've mentioned that, the ladies who at Sync who did Nellie's wedding dress, I can't say enough of good things about them. I mean, because not only are they excellent at what they do, like they make it feel like it is your wedding, and they understand the value of relationships, as opposed to vendors acting like this is about making sure that their business operates the way their business should operate, and it's just like fucking crazy. And entertainment, it's a trade business. A lot of people come in LA and like before they make anything, it's just they work on trade. People who do facials might give a facial to someone who can do their hair for them, right? It's like, well, I'll help you and you help me and let's trade. And like, so when Nally and I were planning our wedding, obviously we're in a position to be like, well, what, we're trying to save, weddings, we spent a decent amount of money. We made an investment in our relationship. We're happy we did, but we were trying to obviously, like everyone else, like reduce those costs. And we are in a position to sometimes like trade for opportunities, because obviously we do have the platform that we have, and people do look to us for recommendations, and we have a huge reach. And so when we went about this process, it was always like, well, listen, if, I don't know how you guys work, or and with certain vendors, it's like, you know what, we're just going to pay for this because it's too hard to explain. I don't think they fully appreciate the value we can bring. Or maybe they're so niche that despite our reach, honestly, I don't think it's going to help them that way. What was interesting is always being told, it was like a respectful, like, you know what, we need our money. It's like, okay, cool. We'll pay you. No problem. But then it was like, but we need credit. Oh, but we want credit. Like, oh, but you need to tag us. And it's like, well, wait, what? No, we paid you. Like, thank you for your money.
Have to.
Yeah. It was like, it was telling us that we added no value while simultaneously insisting that we do the thing that they act like as no value, but made it. And we were just like, again, you know me, I'm big on upfront expectations. What do you want to do? Either one works for us. But yeah, it was very frustrating. It's been very frustrating for some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, if it's up to them if they would rather get paid or do it for if it were me, I would probably go the credit route, because it's like, this is a stepping stone to like a whole other world of, you guys have a huge reach, but then they can't then after the fact demand that you
or
give
just
them credit.
obnoxiously bug you about it.
That's the thing too, because you would think as a vendor that you want the positive to end with the wedding, but then to attach after like negatives of like demands.
Not to mention it
rewrites like the perspective that.
Oh yeah, there's some of the vendors where like I was really impressed with their work and their talents, but my lasting impression is I would never work with them again, and I would never recommend them, because despite their talents, I found them unprofessional or diminished the value of relationships. And so it's just like, yeah, you could work with this person, but they're going to be a giant pain in the ass. They're going to be difficult to work with. The feeling they will give you is that they are hell bent on making sure that their policies and rules are followed, regardless of how it impacts you or your specific needs as a couple, or your wedding that you want, or your specific needs. I think eventually we'll probably, this is the people we recommend, and these are the people who we would never work with again. Seems fair.
I feel like more just like the people that we recommend, and then,
See, there you go.
Do you
think it's a bridge too far by pointing out the people we wouldn't recommend?
I don't know. I mean, I did on Viall Files Plus call out a certain bridal salon that fucked me over, but I'm also
pissed.
But
to be fair, Leia didn't have a dress 3 days before her wedding, so I would have been pissed too.
Yeah, I had a whole nightmare with my wedding dress where the seamstress at the salon messed it up, and I found out 3 days before my wedding, and then they just gave me like a sample rack dress to wear 3 days before my wedding.
Yeah,
so like
it's fucking crazy.
So like, yeah, I called them out, but that's like a store, and also I'm me and not you, so it's like a little different. But like,
but is that interesting though?
It is very interesting.
I'm not like, it's almost like
it's so interesting, because it's like I don't have a massive following, so like for me to say that is like whatever, but for you it like holds so much weight.
I also think it's the way you phrase it. Like if you're like naming the person and saying that they like fucked you over and saying nobody should go to them, like you should make their business hurt, that's different than being like, I will never go back to them, I don't recommend them.
Right, like I wonder.
Like I think that's a little different too. Like you could still name them and still be like not crossing that bridge at the same time.
Yeah, like I wonder if the way to go would be like, okay, these are the people I absolutely recommend, and those people get on that list, and like that's great for them because they, did right by you. They were incredible vendors, and they made your day so special. And then like to, your friends and family, like off air, you would say, yeah, don't go see so and so, but rather than say it like on a large public platform where it could like potentially ruin their business. Like more to like tell them as a learning opportunity, like, by the way, this wasn't cool, this wasn't professional. I'm not going to put you on blast, but like just I would hope that you wouldn't do this to someone in the future.
I also think that you recognizing that there's a bridge means that you wouldn't want to name somebody with the intentions to harm. You know what I mean? Like you're recognizing that maybe we shouldn't say it because there might be a bridge. Or my naive.
Sure, but it's like it's so frustrating because like in this particular situation that it has negatively impacted our wedding experience.
Yeah, which is sad.
And our ability to share our experience with our audience, which for us is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dilemma to have that I can't relate to, because for me, with what happened with my dress, like I told all my friends about it. I was just like, yeah, don't go to this bridal salon to get your dress. Like, I had a horrible experience there.
Yeah.
But like,
are we not allowed to share our
right,
experiences?
exactly. It's hard.
We had to hear so much about their business and, well, I'm just running a business and I'm just blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, yeah, so are we, you know? And then they wanted access to the things that we could offer without any acknowledgement to the value it could bring.
Yeah, well, I think too, like with brand deals and stuff, like they pay you a lot of money to promote certain products.
Yeah, that we believe in.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and when it comes to our wedding, couldn't have been the most personal thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, this is your business, and then in that sense, like you're giving them free.
On the flip side too, like right now, it's what I'm thinking about when it comes to our wedding, and I don't want to be thinking about it. And since we haven't spoken on it negatively or positively, people can make their own determinations. And again, their work is outstanding. So I'm then indirectly setting up anyone from my audience to assume that this is, well, Nick and Natalie worked with them.
Yeah.
I should work with them. I don't know the right answer. I'm just kind of blown away just by the industry. It's so, I think, and I think it's, if nothing else, it's an acknowledgement, this particular vendor, they don't ever have to budge. And yet people still will hire them and they'll still pay them because it's their wedding and because they don't want to sacrifice their wedding, that they, like people like me and Natalie, or just people getting married, put up with so much bullshit from these vendors, some of which are amazing and some of which are just like, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you. That's how it feels. It's always like, nope, can't budge, no, can't budge.
There's so much that goes into planning a wedding, and you want it to be so perfect and you want everything to go so smoothly, and there's so much that goes into planning a wedding that like once it gets closer and closer, you're just like, what? They know that they can take advantage of you because it's like, I'll do whatever, I'll sign whatever. I've already paid so much money that it's like, whatever you need at this point. Like it's
so infuriating.
And they know that.
And then Natalie and I are stuck with this, like, well, do we say something? Do we not say something? Like, what's the right thing to do? But I feel strongly that this vendor has impacted this moment for us so deeply that like, I don't want anyone who listens to this show or follows us on social media to have to deal with this person for what we had to experience.
Like you kind of feel like you owe it to everyone to know, like to not fall into the same situation. Because like, yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I mean, I got married 3 years ago at this point. So like time has passed and I've healed, but like, I don't know what I would have done like fresh off that experience had I had a massive following to like tell the story to. Like,
it's funny because when we talked about it on GD, when I said, well, they have no incentive to earn your business back, I had a couple of wedding vendors say, that's what reviews are for. So that's how we are held accountable.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Your situation's different. Like there is that thing where it's like in the wedding industry in general, like, well, they don't care. Like this wedding dress place, they're like, well, you already bought your wedding dress here. Like, I don't care to wrong you at this point because like you're not coming back for another wedding dress. But like with you, it's different because it's like your referral and your review means more than like a returning customer.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
At the end of the day, your truth could be someone else's sign or like someone else's reason or protection to not do that. So
yeah, I don't know.
Well, name them.
Name them.
Name them.
It might come to that, but we'll see.
The thing about it that sucks the most that you said is that this is what you're thinking about now instead of like just relishing in the excitement and the positives of it. The fact that you're like still dealing with this.
Yeah.
Is frustrating. Well, I mean, on the topic of weddings, we thought it could be fun to do a little game of I do or I object. We're going to talk about some wedding traditions and whether or not we think that they're
outdated or still good to go.
We like them. Did you do them?
This will be really easy because I'll tell you exactly what we did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Garters, no.
Right, so that's on the list.
Yeah. Natalie,
cross that off.
As Natalie said, respectfully, that tradition should die. Like, let's just call out every single fucking person there, and like, why do we need to see like the fucking groom like do something like?
Where does it originate from? Like, where does that tradition come from? Because like
it probably I think it comes from like old school like the fact that like the wedding was the first time you're gonna have sex, and
it goes back to medieval times.
Oh yeah, there you go.
They
I
all
feel
do,
like we
by the
outgrew
way.
it.
A lot
Yeah.
of them go back to
Yeah.
like Roman times. I
Yeah.
mean, we'll go through a lot
But no,
more of
it
these,
says
but-
it says from medieval superstition that the wedding guest should take a piece of the bride's dress as good luck. A garter was a simple item a bride could give as a good luck charm instead of the guest tearing apart her wedding dress.
Yeah,
Whoa.
So it was a compromise.
Oh my God. Jeez. Okay. So we say, I do not to that one. I object.
Object.
We object to the garter.
Object.
Object. Okay. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
I mean,
Did you guys do that?
I don't.
I don't even know what that is.
Is Natalie supposed to have worn something new, something old, something blue, something true, blah, blah, blah?
Something, yes, essentially. There is
What about the
reasoning
groom?
behind it. Well, it comes from an Old English rhyme that lists objects that would give a bride good luck on their wedding day. So I guess it's just the
I mean,
bride.
technically, she had her grandma's ring, which is her something old. Her dress would have been something new, but did she borrow anything?
She borrowed.
Or something blue. No, she borrowed her grandmother's.
No, but that's like hers now. You know what I mean? Like
Oh.
I don't think she's given it back.
Oh,
So
she definitely
didn't.
borrowed something.
What?
Her veil is not hers. There you go.
Yeah, but nothing
God,
blue.
thank God we have good luck now. I'm not a superstitious
nothing
person,
blue.
so
I guess River's eyes are
She
blue.
didn't have
Does
anything
that count?
blue.
yeah,
River's
River's eyes are
eyes?
blue.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. The
Does that
sky was
count?
blue. So blue.
Well, because it says that something new symbolizes happy future. Something borrowed was typically like you'd borrow it from a couple that's had like marital success, and then that gives
and then they
you
get divorced
luck.
6 months later, then you're fucked. Did you hear Debbie and John had a threesome?
It's like, oh fuck, we're doomed.
And now they got
And then the blue represents fidelity and love. So interesting.
That makes
I don't
sense.
know.
River's eyes.
There you
Yeah,
go.
River's eyes. Okay, having bridesmaids and groomsmen.
We did it. I like it. Yeah, it's nice.
I did it too.
We didn't have our wedding party stand up with us. If you noticed, they just walked up, sat down.
I like that because I did make my bridesmaids and groomsmen stand, and it's not because I made them. It's just because there were no. I didn't have anything to do with the.
We wanted to be
decision.
the center. We
Yeah.
wanted to be the center of
Well,
attention.
it's also hot. They're wearing heels. They
down.
don't want to stand the whole
Yeah, sit
time.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, does bridesmaids and groomsmen imply gender? Because for me, it's like I want like a wedding party, but like I would want my side to be people I know, so like of all genders.
I think it just depends. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to so many weddings, like where I've known women who have had best man, and not even like a gay best friend.
Yeah,
like
just
I've been to
anybody.
weddings where her best friend was a straight male, and so
So is he a bridesmaids at that point?
I don't know how it worked, but
Yeah.
he was
Bridesman.
He was
Oh,
on her
okay.
side, you know.
Did he
so
go to the bachelorette party?
I don't remember, but I think that's pretty common nowadays.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I mean,
Well-
I like the idea of just, giving your best friends that honor, like, or, having them get
Yeah.
ready with you, get to walk down the aisle, be like close to you on your special day.
So I do.
Saving the top tier of your wedding cake.
Saving forever.
So I did this.
I
I
loved
like
my
cut
wedding
a
cake,
piece.
and honestly,
Did
I'm
you
like,
save it?
I don't think so. I don't know. But I did at the end of the night. I was like, "Oh, wedding cake!" And I had like 2 pieces. But we
Did you guys smash it in each other's faces?
fuck no, absolutely, I don't.
I don't like when people do
No.
that.
Natalie and
I
I, our
object.
wedding cake, we basically got a very small wedding cake for us to cut.
hmm
We didn't do the whole big thing. 'Cause it was like,
It's a
and then I
waste.
think we also got cookies and cupcakes. Like we didn't get a wedding cake for everybody. I find a lot of people don't eat the wedding cake.
No, which is pointless.
So it's
No, I
like,
don't think
yeah,
I-
we did the very cost-effective thing of getting a small little cake for us to cut.
Some people do save it and then they take a spoon of it every single anniversary.
That's what we did. So we took
Do you
a
get
piece.
sick off of that?
No,
Probably.
no. So
Forever?
well, we
Yep.
took a piece of the wedding cake. It's just for us. It was just going to be first anniversary. I've never heard like every anniversary.
You still have it though?
No, so I don't know where the hell it is. I really don't. Like we didn't eat it on our first anniversary. I don't know where we put it. I know we froze it in someone's freezer. So
Okay.
if it's in your freezer, let me know.
If we did save it, I am unaware.
Yeah, I'm not a big like dessert person, but I do feel like a cute thing my sister did was my dad's cousins who live by our grandma in Iowa took like a to-go container of all the different types of dessert and like drove it back to Iowa so the 94-year-old could like have some of the wedding
You
cake.
know what we did do?
Oh.
What?
We saved a couple of bottles of wine.
Okay. Are you ever gonna are you just
Sure,
gonna save
that's-
those for special occasions?
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think we didn't buy the most expensive wine, but it was just the fact that this was the wine we
Sentimental.
served at our
Yeah.
wedding.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
that ages. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because this also is like traditionally the top tier of the wedding cake was saved and kept frozen to be enjoyed by the couple at their future child's christening.
Oh my god,
So I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. First
it
dance.
seems like a lot of work. Absolutely. I do.
Follow-up question to that is a choreographed first dance.
Absolutely, I don't. No.
We object.
I think
I feel like you can put a little like thought into it. Like you guys did the dip and stuff.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I think
We
was
practice.
Great, but, like,
we
I've
practice
been
in
to
the
weddings
trailer.
where it's like full routine and
with like
no one's having fun.
It's cringe. It's
I've
so
seen
awkward.
it with like a lift.
Yeah,
I think it's entertaining. I wouldn't do it, but I'm like, I love to see you try.
Oh, entertaining for sure, but not in like it's not like a laugh with them. It's more of a laugh at them.
Sometimes they're good though.
No,
rarely.
And like their
Ever.
expressions are so serious because they're trying to remember everything. And I'm like, you are not like even having fun at all.
Yeah. Do a twirl, do a dip. That's all you need.
I also don't want to like have to stress about anything at my wedding. You know, it's like you have to think about that then all night. Like, oh my God, am I going to remember the moves to my dance? Like,
yeah, I've been at a cocktail party, like talking to a groom, like, how you feeling? He's like, I'm trying to remember all my steps. And I was like, oh my God.
Okay, never mind.
And then there are just like a couple fun, like cultural traditions we wanted to talk about. So like, at least for me, there's a Jewish tradition where it's called the Yichud room, where after you get married, your bridesmaids, groomsmen, the whole wedding party, they like dance you into a room where it's just the two of you. And then, you know, it goes back to ancient times where like technically you're not supposed to touch your significant other until you get married. And one of the things that you have to do to be married is consummate the marriage. So they like
carried into a room to fuck.
Exactly.
And then they
wait outside for you to do that.
Absolutely, I do not. Yeah.
Well, they don't do it anymore. Like we didn't do that.
I was like, is this room at your wedding?
So much sushi in that room, but like no, it's like, but yeah,
but they still do the room. But no one actually fucks.
They still do the room, and they're banging on the door while you're in there.
So technically, people might still do it. You just decided to eat sushi.
I mean, to be honest, I was like, should we? And I was like, no, not in this dress.
That's a little creep. But listen, you know, if it's your.
I don't think people actually do it.
Yeah.
And then there was the money dance.
Oh yeah, this one's, I've said it on the show before. So in Filipino culture, you have a money dance, and this is at the reception, and you have like the first dance, and then you have like the money dance where like the bride and the groom will dance individually, like in the center of the stage, and then we go up to them and pin money on them.
Hell yeah.
So like the guys will go to the girls, and then the girls will go to the.
Sign me up for the money dance. I wish we would have done the money dance.
And it's supposed to be like good fortune and like luck.
Yeah.
To like pin them, and like some people are like dressed like fully and like.
And they get to keep it all.
Yeah, they keep it.
Yeah, I absolutely.
But here's my take. As a Filipino, I'm like, is that just an alternative version of like
wedding gifts,
like stripper ones?
I don't care either way. You're getting paid.
Well, there you go.
Well, that was fun. A lot of wedding talk. I'm sure we'll have more of it. Talk in the comments, whatever we talked about. We have some great calls lined up for you. Can't wait for you to listen to them. Before we do, don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com for all things texting, office hour, mediation. You know the drill. Also, for all of those people who call in and written and have some updates, be sure to send in those updates as well. And if you love those updates, remember, we have so many episodes of those updates behind Viall Files Plus. Just go to viallfiles.com to sign up. It's a 7-day free trial, so no excuses, people, because there's a lot of updates that you have been dying to hear that are available for you right now. All right, let's get to our callers.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hi, my name is Brooke. I'm 23 years old, and I'm struggling to get over an ex-boyfriend's comments about me and my body post-breast reduction.
Oh, my God. Okay. Tell me more.
Where do I start?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Because we're talking about an ex first and foremost, yeah?
Yeah, like recent ex. So this happened, we broke up like a month ago. So these comments were made in the conversation that ended our relationship.
Gotcha. All right. So let's talk about how your relationship ended, and let's start there.
Okay. So we were on vacation the week prior, and everything was fine. I got like really sick. I had a sinus infection. We got back, and we just were sort of in the swing of things. I went back to school. He went back to work, and I don't know, like things seemed distant. Like he had been pushing me away over a period of time. And then I don't know, it was like that Thursday, we got back that Saturday, and the following Thursday, we were just like having like a normal phone call, or like what I thought was going to be. And it started off like, okay, maybe we're not compatible in certain ways. Like he works to live, I live to work, and just different things like that. But there were certain things that I thought we could work through, or that I was just like challenging him on, not to like convince him any other way. But in response to that,
can you give me just an example of, if you can remember, what you said to him and how you said it? Because like when you say he works to live, I live to work, like that's a very general phrase, but like, you know, it sounds like
I'm very driven. I'm in law school. I love what I do. I enjoy it, and he hates his job.
Okay.
And he doesn't really like have any goals in his career.
Sure.
So we are different in that respect, because when we have free time, like.
Understood. So how did you communicate that to him?
So that wasn't really like, that was more of a comment that I made. He said like, the way we spend our free time is differently. Like we would like to spend Saturdays. We spend Saturdays differently, or we would like to spend them differently. And I said, okay, like what would be an ideal Saturday for you? And he couldn't answer. And then it turned into, well, like the sex isn't good either. Well, you initiated sex 3 times in the week before this conversation, so I don't get it. And then it was, your body has changed a lot since we've been together.
Wild thing to say.
Yeah. And I was like really caught off guard by that, because he'd never like suggested anything.
So here's my question is like, how you're talking about a fight you guys had, right? This conversation, but like, I guess my question is, did it start with you expressing frustrations about like? It
did.
Okay.
Yeah, with like, I said, I feel like you're pushing me away.
Okay, you started with that, and then did it come? Did you start talking about your frustrations about his career choices and things like that?
No, because that wasn't a frustration to me.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't think that's why we. That's not. I don't think why we broke up.
No, that's not what.
It was just a very weird.
That's not what I'm getting at. So you started by saying your boyfriend made some really hurtful comments to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're struggling trying to process that, I'm imagining.
Yeah.
You've heard the term hurt people, right? So I'm just wondering, you talk to you basically, you know, you're very driven, you have your career, you know what you want. Your boyfriend seems to be the opposite. I don't know if he's less driven or just isn't as clear in terms of what he wants to do. A lot of people have drive, and a lot of people have a desire to be successful and be rich and have money, but they don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they're good at. They don't know how to apply themselves, you know, and it can be very discouraging to do that. And then at the same time, you know, especially men who can easily feel emasculated, here they are dating someone who is focused, knows what she wants, you know, and so I'm just trying to understand the possibility of. And I don't this is not justifying what he said. You know, when people say things to us that hurt our feelings, you know, he said these very hurtful things, right? About your body, of all things, right? So now I'm guessing you've spent the past several weeks thinking about what he said, you know, and how that made you feel. And then judging yourself potentially, because you're like, well, is he right? Has my body changed? Have I done all these? I
literally fact checked him.
Exactly, right? You spend all this emotional energy trying to verify whether your asshole of an ex-boyfriend is being an asshole, and I'm just trying to figure out, does this have anything to actually do with you, or is this guy who feels less than because of the success of his girlfriend and lashed out because he again, not to justify what he said, but to explain why he said it so that you can spend less energy trying to quantify whether he's talking from a place of truth or, am I making sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
It's like, he didn't say this because he feels this way. He says this because he feels less about himself. And now he is trying to make you feel less about yourself because he is frustrated with the success that you are having as an individual.
Yeah, it's just like how, and like I understand that, and like I can say that to myself, that like he is projecting like his insecurities or whatever it may be. But yeah, I don't know, it's like hard. And also, he is the only person I've been with. I met him before my breast reduction, like been with since my breast reduction.
Are you happy with your breast reduction?
Well, I am, and like I never questioned it, but like,
well, that's
not that I do. It's just like, he was like, I'm like gonna get emotional, but he was also with me while my dad died, which was not long after this. And he said in like this conversation, like, you stopped giving a fuck about everything after your dad died, like scar care, things like that. And I did. I didn't care about my scars. I had bigger priorities.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really sorry you're going through this. It sucks. I think the best we can try to do, because I guess you have a choice. Is this, and when's the last time you talked to your ex-boyfriend?
So after this conversation, I texted him that night. I said, I need my apartment key back, and it turned green. So he had blocked me. And I didn't text him for like 3 weeks, and I reached out to him.
How long have you been with this guy?
Saturday. A year and a few months.
Okay. All right. So he blocked you.
Yeah, but then I did reach out Saturday.
Okay.
And I didn't think it'd go through, but it did. I said, are you busy? And so we had a phone conversation. And
what was that about?
Like admitted the part about, because I said, I'm like struggling to get over the fact that like you said I like stopped giving a fuck after my dad died. And I know that's not true. And he like acknowledged that it came from like a place of almost bitterness and resentment. But when it came to the comments about my body, because I was like, that came out of left field, he was like, yeah, we don't have to address everything in one conversation. And I was like, so like you're doubling down, or what are we doing? Like, and I know I shouldn't care. Like,
what do you mean you shouldn't care? Of course you care. You're allowed to care. You're not a robot.
Right. But it's like, yeah. Like, I know I shouldn't be like seeking closure from him about that, because I shouldn't.
I mean, it's one thing it's one thing to know that you're not going to get closure from him, but this is still new and it's still raw, and you are allowed to be upset. You're allowed to feel. The trick is not, it's like, it's such a fine line, right? And I hope that, 5 minutes ago, I didn't sound like I was trying to justify what he was saying. I just we can't control what people do and say, right? Ever.
Right.
We can't control how strangers interact with us. We can't even control what the people we love, how they interact with us. And when we're in a relationship, we can communicate like, hey, you said that upset me. I'm really, and then we can certainly hope that the people we're in relationships with, whether it's romantic or friendships, that when we express our hurt and frustrations about what they said, they listen with an empathetic ear and understanding, and not be defensive, and just say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Like, how can I make it better? That's obviously the ideal response. In this case, this led to a breakup. And now you're no longer in a relationship with this person. So you have a double whammy to deal with. Not to mention your father passed away recently. So you are now dealing with simply just the breakup. Like, even if it was a breakup that you didn't want to be in, a relationship, you're like, I don't know, this isn't working for me. Even if you knew that you were better off, you're still allowed to be sad, because breakups suck. And they're hard, and you're moving on from someone you invested a year and a half of your life in, and probably at least for a period of the time, you imagined a future with this person, and yada, yada, yada. And so even if you're the person who's just like, this guy's a loser piece of shit, and I don't know why I started dating him, you are still allowed to be sad, right? So you are allowed to feel. But in your case, you were hit with this, these comments that made you question your self-worth and your body and things like that. And so you are dealing with his hurtful words and the loss of a relationship you weren't expecting. So you do have to give yourself some grace, and it's okay to feel. Now, the trick is to not spend more energy and time than you need to. And that's kind of what it's all about, And it's a very fine line between allowing yourself to feel and be sad and be angry and all the normal feelings that come with processing emotion or loss or hurt and things like that. And I'm not here to say when that time is, but a lot of things I talk about on this show are really just about that. It's to not make a bad situation worse. And I remember through a lot of my heartbreaks and a lot of my sorrows and frustrations, and I'm not comparing them to yours, it's different. But I was notorious for making bad situations worse by obsessing over my thoughts and what people said to me. I can't believe if they said this, why did they do this? I would talk about with, anyone, and I would analyze every word they did and their actions. And I would have conversations with them in my head, and I would literally argue with them in my head. I had the best arguments with ex-girlfriends by myself.
All right, yeah, coming up with conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's just like I would just be in car rides arguing with them. It's like, who are you talking to? I probably looked like a crazy person. And so I always remember that. And that really, it drained me. And so when I talk to people a lot about on the show, it is trying to control your thoughts. It's not obsessing over things. It's not trying to understand things that honestly, there's nothing to understand. Why did your ex-boyfriend say this? And we can guess, right? And my guess is he is unhappy with himself. He is unhappy with his career or the fact that he hates his job. He sees how much you are happy with your career.
Yeah.
I remember being in my mid to early 20s or late 20s.
Well, he's 31. So.
31, even still, it wasn't like the job I left to do all this bullshit I'm doing was the first time I found a job that I was like, this is the career for me. It was with a company I liked, and I felt like I had the type of upward mobility I was searching for. Like I had solid jobs before that, but every other job I had before that job, it was just like there's a big part missing. I was unsatisfied with it, and here I was in my early 30s, being like, I didn't plan on being in my 30s and not knowing if this was like the career I wanted, and that's a very unsettling feeling. And I had a lot of frustrations. And then I ended up quitting that job to do all this bullshit. But like I guess what I'm saying, it's just like the fact that he is 31 and hates his job makes it even worse for him.
Yeah, well, like he's also doing nothing about it. So it's like, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I hear you. But that doesn't stop people from feeling sorry for themselves.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, so I guess like it does make me question myself because I'm like, I also now feel like I wasn't dating the person that I thought I was. Because I never thought he would say anything like that.
That is an unhealthy thought, and that is you making a bad situation worse. That's because absurd. You just said to me that you knew this guy for a year and a half, and you're basically telling me that you're judging yourself and feeling less about yourself because what? You're not a mind reader? That you didn't know everything about who he was? This is the first time that your relationship with this guy dealt with this type of stress. And now this is how he's handling it. This is not like a 20-year relationship where you've dealt with tragedy and pain and suffering and money problems, and you have worked through as a couple all these super difficult situations, and out of nowhere, 20 years later, your husband and your father of your children out of left field is handling another very difficult situation in a way you've never seen him handling it before. That is not this situation. But that is how, and that statement you just made of you feeling less about yourself because you didn't see this coming, you're acting like you are in your 50s and you've had this like lifetime with this guy.
Yeah, but it's like, then how do I like go forward and not expect that to happen again?
What do you mean? You learn. I don't know. Like I hate to break it to you. How old are you again?
23.
I hate to break it to you. You're gonna have a lot more people disappoint you.
Right.
And the person you end up marrying and loving is gonna also sometimes say things that hurt your feelings, unfortunately. And hopefully you're able to work through it. But this won't be the last time someone that you feel very close with disappoints you in a way that you never imagined them disappointing you. Unfortunately, that's just part of life, and all we can do is learn from it. What can you learn from this, right? That your next boyfriend, that you're very career driven. That your career is important to you, right? So when you meet a guy early in a relationship where you get a sense or a vibe that he is still figuring out what he wants to do with his life, that's a red flag for you because you already know that you being very confident in what you want for yourself and your career and your drive and that any guy that you meet who hasn't has his shit figured out, that's going to eventually create conflict in your relationship. And I'm not saying you can't date.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah, that's part of life. There's a lot of other reasons you're not going to be compatible with people. It's also, I don't know. Are you religious?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go. Now, it also, it might be annoying. You go on a first date, you meet a guy, you think he's so good looking, he's respectful, he's interested in you. It's the best first date you ever had. He's asking all these questions about you. He's interested in what you want to do. He's asking you follow-up questions. You're like, holy shit, this fucking guy is, this guy's too good to be true. And then on date 2, he brings up that he's a devout Buddhist. And you're just like, well, okay. And he's just like, listen, I want to get married. I want to have kids someday, but it's really important for my partner to be just as devout in my faith and as someone who, like you, says you're not very religious, that might be a problem for you. That's a non-negotiable. You know, someone who says, hey, I want you to change your beliefs, like you might not be able to work through that. And here you are so excited about this first date. I mean, I'm just preparing you. That's life. And I always say, you're looking for one, not many. And so you got to remember that in your journey to find your one person, and listen, you might have multiple great loves. You know, hopefully you only marry one person. Unfortunately, we live in a time where marriages aren't super successful, and there's a lot of reasons why people break up. And so you really have to, you know, do your due diligence when you're dating to find out, you know, if this is a relationship that's going to stand the test of time, you know, and you're going to enter in some relationships where you say, I love you to each other and you make plans and it might not work out. And that's unfortunately part of love and dating in life. But you're not doing yourself any good by beating yourself up emotionally and judging yourself because you couldn't figure out in a year and a half if someone was going to work through certain types of challenges. Sometimes, you know, I always say it's like you don't really know how compatible you are until you start working through adversity. Or when you have your first fight and things like that. And sometimes you can't create adversity. You have to wait for adversity to happen.
Right.
Like the sad reality, your father passed. Obviously, if we're lucky enough to outlive our parents, everyone's going to have to deal with the passing of a parent. And we don't know what that's going to be like until it happens. And we don't know how our partners are going to support us until it happens. It's not like in your first 5 dates, you're just like, hey, so like when my parents die, are you going to be,
right.
You know, like you don't have those conversations. And even if you did, you don't know, you know, if someone's been lucky enough not to deal with death, people only can guess how they're going to handle those things. But then, and then it happens and then you find out.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I thought like he handled it well while it was happening, but then for it to be thrown in my face.
Sure.
Sort of.
Well, yeah. So
it's like,
he didn't handle it.
Just kidding.
He didn't handle your death. He didn't handle the death. This had nothing. This is not to do with how he handled the death of your father. This is how to do with. I don't know what he's going through or why he's feeling the way he's feeling, but he is feeling unhappy with himself. That much is clear because you're not crazy and you didn't meet some guy. You didn't meet some monster who's just been faking this whole year and a half about who he is, right? I know it might feel that way.
I guess.
But like, and so instead of the explanation isn't like, oh, he's some narcissist and some sociopath and he's just.
And I don't think that of him. I do like, I don't know. It sucks that that's the way it ended because I do.
He is being an absolute jerk. He is a jerk. He's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's being an asshole. And I don't really know if he's going to live to regret it or realize his mistake. I hope he does, but that's his journey.
Yeah, I don't need him to. But.
Yeah, but I think you just need to, you don't need to understand. I guess that's my big point. You don't need to understand why he said what he said. The only thing you need to understand is that he's a jerk.
Okay.
And so all these conversations you either have with yourself or your girlfriends or me, and it's just like the answer is he's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's a jerk. He wanted to hurt you. He did. He wanted to hurt you emotionally. And that's why he said what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing you need to understand. It does suck, but that is better than you spending a bunch of emotional energy looking in the mirror and wondering if he's actually right.
It is. No, literally, like, and I know he's not. Like, I fact checked him, which was probably not healthy, but I did it. It was like, my doctor said I'm not.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh, but like, you need to try to work at not having to fact check him.
Right. No, I know. And that was just like, my initial response was like, okay, like, is he right? Like, have I really gotten out of shape? And I'm like, no, I'm 10 pounds lighter than when we met. Like,
and also like, even, you know, who gives a shit?
No.
There might be a period in your life where, you know.
Well, I'm like, like, are you going to have a family? Like, your wife gets pregnant and you're like, oh, your body changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he might handle that way. And that sucks for whoever that person is. But instead of spending this emotional energy fact checking him and feeling less about yourself. And again, I'm not saying you don't have a right to feel sad, but there's that fine line between being hurt by what someone says to you and then making it worse by obsessing and questioning something you know deep down isn't true. And instead of just recognizing that they're just a jerk is like actually validating what they say by fact checking, because you fact checking And then talking with friends and being like, is validating.
Giving them the power.
Exactly. Yeah. And what you need to try to do, instead of feeling bad about yourself and questioning your own self-worth, is gratitude. Oh my God, I really hate that I found this out now, but like you just pointed out, better than finding out after you have a kid that you're what you thought was your supportive, empathetic husband is now some body shaming prick who's going to use his own unhappiness about where he's at to make you feel worse about yourself at your most vulnerable moment as a new mom. Oh my God. And then you're like, this is the father of my child, and he's saying the most hurtful things I could imagine him saying to me. Thank God we didn't find that out then. You're only 23 years old. You're not engaged. You're not married. You don't have a kid with this guy. You are free and clear. And I know it sucks and I know it's hurtful, but people have a lot of more difficult times leaving relationships than you have. And so there are things that you can choose to be thankful for in this situation. And most of getting through life and disappointment is just a matter of perspective. How do we choose to see this situation?
Yeah. No, I think I am generally grateful, but I was looking for things to be grateful for the like relationship and not like the way it ended. Like I was like, oh, like, I don't know, it served its purpose. But
I'm guessing, like, what did you learn about this? I mean, we could sit there and do this exercise.
Well, I learned that I'm not going to respond to messages that comment on my appearance, like the first message.
Sure.
Probably.
Yeah. But like in terms of, when you think back about this relationship, you know, how he handled the situation, were there glimpses of this prior to?
Not about my body, but just like towards women. And I did.
There you go. How did he talk about other women, you know?
Yeah, no, like there were certain times he would just like talk, like mock like women, like in a woman's voice. And I don't know, like eventually I called it out. I was like, why do you hate women this week? Like, and yeah, he didn't like that.
Well,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. I also, I don't know. Our values weren't aligned the way I thought they were initially because.
How did you think they were aligned?
Well, he was like, that he's like a feminist and he is just like for social justice and equality. And then you're like demeaning and shitting on women. And it's like, well, that's not how that works.
Yeah. You know.
So believing people's, or like, I don't know, I mean, it was words, but like.
How did it come up that he was a feminist? Just out of curiosity.
Just on like in Tinder.
Gotcha. He said he was, or you asked him?
He said he was.
Okay. Oh. Red flag. I don't know. I've never.
Realistically, yeah.
I've never offered that I'm a feminist. I mean, I don't even like the label, but like, do I think I support women? But I think it's weird for a guy
who needs to disclaim it,
who needs to like point out that he is.
Yeah, they're just like equal equality. But yeah, then when it came down to it, like it wasn't. Like we were having conversations, and I was like, yeah, equality for people in your situation, like, and that's not equality.
Yeah. So I guess, again, when we think about what we can learn from it is like, clearly this guy pointed out some red flags in the past that you could learn from. And it's normal in relationships to look the other way, to make excuses for our partners, you know, because you want to be supportive. You also want to think that like you wouldn't have chosen to date a man who you're now suspecting has a grudge against women. So instead of acknowledging it, you look the other way, you know? And I'm not saying this for you to now beat yourself up emotionally about it. I'm just saying you can learn from it in the future.
Right. No, hindsight is 20/20.
You're only 23, and I don't know how that feels for you on your end, but from my end, you're only 23. And you didn't get it right with this guy. That is okay. And I can't tell you how thankful I am to not have gotten engaged or married specifically to a bunch of women who are wonderful and great, and I had a lot of great memories with them, but I'm glad I didn't marry them. And if you had told me that at the time, I wouldn't have believed you. And so I see this as a blessing for you. And while I understand what he said is very upsetting, I just want you to not dwell on it as much as possible. And I want you to not validate what he said by fact checking him and going to your friends and be like, do I look, you know, how do I look? I mean, am I, you know, and it's a fine line. We're only human. And again, I don't want to suggest that you didn't have a right to have a response. Of course you were going to get hurt by what he said,
Right.
Of course you were going to be sad.
And he knew that.
Yeah.
Like, we both knew that. That's why he said it.
Yeah. But now it's been a month and a half, right? You said about a month and a half. Now is the time to to not let those toxic thoughts control you. And that it's a work in progress. Like, you're not going to do this overnight. And controlling your thoughts it's a work in progress. I can sit there and say, control your thoughts, but even not to this day, I have to work to control my thoughts. I have to say, oh shit, I'm doing it again. I'm ruminating. I'm obsessing over this thing that is, it's taking my mental energy, and I have to, stop it, Nick. The things that we obsess over and ruminate the most, the things we'll have to constantly remind ourselves to, like, hey, we're doing it again. And so I could sit there and say, don't let him make you think this way. Don't let him make you think this way. Control your thoughts. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to turn it off. You're not going to get off this call and be like, all right, well, Nick told me to control my thoughts. I'm just going to stop thinking about it.
Right,
That's not going to happen. No, later tonight, you might see something. You might get triggered by something you see on TV or a conversation you have with your friends, and it's going to trigger you, and it's going to make you think about the very hurtful things that your ex-boyfriend said to you. And it's going to make you, and then once you get triggered, you're going to immediately want to get that validation, or you're going to want to talk to your friend. And that's when you're going to say to yourself, Brooke, all right, hey, listen, okay, you're doing it again. You're beautiful. You've been crushing life. You have so much to be proud of. You look great. He was a jerk. And then instead of spending the next 30 minutes feeling sorry for yourself, you stop it. But you know what's going to happen the next day?
Right.
The next day you might get triggered again. And the next day you might, and you start ruminating about it. And then you say, Brooke, you got to stop. It's a work in progress, And so you have to give yourself grace to understand that every day you might get triggered for a period of time. And every day you might ruminate a little bit. But it's just having that self-awareness to call yourself out in your head to say, stop, I'm doing this. Maybe having a friend. You say, hey, listen, I need your help. I tried that. Yeah. And keep trying it. Again, this is a work in progress. You're not going to count Mount Everest in a day, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So you have to give yourself grace to allow yourself to relapse, to allow yourself to feel down, to allow yourself, that it's normal to do this. You know what I'm saying? It's very normal to handle these types of very hurtful situations in the way that you're handling it. So don't judge yourself for obsessing over it, but just say, hey, I caught myself again. What else can I think about? How can I validate myself? Where can I get that self-confidence? And then, what is something that either, all right, let's get busy at school or work or whatever it is that is a positive thought. You tell yourself, I need to think about this. So when I say control your thoughts, it's not some magic thing where you just like, all right, turn it off. You actually have, it's like anything else. You have to do the work. You actually have to think of something else to think about. But the thing that you want to obsess over is always going to creep back in your head. It's having that self-awareness to say, wait, you're doing it again. All right, stop. No, stop asking myself these questions. Stop arguing with him in my head. Because I bet you've done that a lot. I bet you've had a lot of arguments with him by yourself in your thoughts. Things that you wish you would want to say to him,
Yeah, because I was so respectful when this happened. I was just like, I can't be with somebody who says this. And I hung up and that was it. But now I'm like, oh man, I could have said.
Yeah.
But I don't regret not being disrespectful, because when do you regret that?
And it's normal to want to have those conversations in your head. I'm just saying you have to get the thing you want to work on is get good at calling yourself out when you're having these types of conversations with him or about him in your head. And instead of going through that whole mental exercise of the fight that doesn't accomplish anything, or the conversations about him, again, that is only going to be a bunch of speculation between you and your girlfriends or your parent, whatever your support system, and you're not going to get any answers. You're just going to get a bunch of speculation. It's saying, hey, you know what? We don't need to do this. This is just giving him too much power. He was a jerk. He obviously is upset with what's going on in his life, and he took it out on me. And I don't need to feel less about myself because he's a jerk. And you just replay that conversation, and then you do whatever you can to start thinking about something else. The thing I'm talking about doing is something that takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you're going to...
sometimes I'm good at it and can catch myself. But sometimes, like Saturday, I got in just a cycle of ruminating And that's, yeah, they ended up in me reaching out, and I don't want to do that again. So,
and that's good to know, to acknowledge, but you do, it's like that combination of grace and holding yourself accountable, you know?
right.
And so, when I was younger, I would always have one of the two. I'd either be really hard on myself without the grace, beat myself up emotionally. Or I would give myself the grace without holding myself accountable. But that grace turned out to me like just obsessing over it. I gave myself the grace to feel sorry for myself, right?
Yeah.
So giving yourself the grace is allowing yourself, is to not beating yourself up for feeling down, to say, you know what, I have the right to feel sad. It's okay to feel sad. This is normal. This was very hurtful to me. I'm a human being. I have feelings. But eventually you have to say, but you know what, Brooke, you're better than this. This is not who you are. Let's not give him the power. And I'm going to start stopping myself from going down these ruminating rabbit holes. And again, it's a very fine line. It's something you work on every day. And it gets a little bit better every day. Then you do a little fake it till you make it. Does that make sense? Is this helpful?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It does make sense.
Because it's sometimes we're always, it's either one or the other. We're so black and white, with how we handle our difficult situations.
In response to that, I automatically got like hypercritical of myself and just, but I know that I deserve grace.
Yeah. So how do you feel about yourself? You got to remember that.
Yeah.
That's hard to do, but like whatever you were doing, like what was, after your procedure, how did you feel about it? Were you happy with it? And that's really all that matters.
Right. And I was, and like, I never cared about the scarring, and it doesn't look bad anyways. I did so much research before I did it. And but I don't regret it at all. I'm like in so much less pain than I was. Like that is
there you go.
What it was about. So.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there are a lot of jerks out there. And I don't mean just men. There's just a lot of jerks. Yeah. And unfortunately, hurt people do hurt people. Yeah, give yourself some grace. I know it's upsetting, but like you have a lot going for you. You have so much ahead of you that I'm so excited for you. Right now your thing. Right now you're dealing with a lot. You have a lot of reasons from your POV to feel down, to be upset, to feel hurt, and they're all valid. I totally get it. But as someone who's lived a little bit more life than you, and I hope that doesn't sound condescending or whatever, but like I know how much, and what I'm hearing is that I'm hearing I'm 23. I was able to afford a surgery on my own. I know what I want to do. I love what I do. I know what I want to do. I'm excited about what I want to do. And as a 23-year-old woman, as a 23-year-old person, you're leaps and bounds ahead where a lot of people your age are, especially nowadays. I mean, your generation doesn't know what they want to do with their lives. They're struggling finding work. They're struggling finding purpose. You have that. There are so many people who are going to be envious of of what you have going for you, and what you have going for you is really hard to find. That purpose, that drive, that sense of like, why do you wake up as a 23-year-old and get out of bed?
Right.
I struggle with that. I didn't have that at 23. And I
am.
And I hope that you are super appreciative of that. And I'm not saying this like, oh, I hope you're be grateful, but I want to give you something to wake up, and instead of feeling sorry for yourself, look in the mirror and be like, you're fucking crushing it. Because there are a lot of people who are very envious of what you got going for you. So much so that someone you thought cared about you was willing to say something so hurtful, because that is how envious he is of what you have that he doesn't. He's 31 years old and he's looking at his 23-year-old girlfriend being like, fuck.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. Like, that's sad to me that like someone tells you like what they're so passionate about and shares that, and you're just like,
It's sad, but yeah, I mean,
angry.
You can have empathy for them almost. I don't mean, within reason. But listen, the more successful you are, the happy you. Unfortunately, that's just the world, the way the world is. The happy you are, the more successful you are, the better the decisions you make for yourself, the more adversity it will create for you. You will really find out who your true friends are. You know, growing up is sometimes can be very disheartening because the older you get, your circles get smaller. When you're 19, you make friends based off of like having similar interests and a willingness to keep each other's secrets. You know, when you get older and you find love and you have kids and you have responsibility, you really find out who your ride and die people are. And usually it's really just the people you marry and your family and maybe one or two other friends. And realizing that can bring a lot of disappointment, but it shouldn't make you feel bad about yourself, and it shouldn't make you disappointed in the world. The world's always been this way.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate that.
Misery loves, you know, you've heard the saying, misery loves company, right?
I said that. Yeah, I said that as soon as we got off the phone.
So people are, you know, your success is unfortunately going to bring critics. And this won't be the more successful you are, this won't be the last time someone you thought was a friend or a confidant or a support system reveals themselves to not be. They'll be adversarial, they'll be jealous, they'll be envious. This will not be the last time. I am not saying this for you to be a skeptic.
No, I've already experienced that.
But I'm saying this so that you don't allow those people to make you feel less than about yourself.
Yeah, and that's an important reminder because, I don't value their opinions about other things. So, I don't know.
Was this helpful? I don't know.
It was. I do have to leave for class soon.
Okay.
But this was helpful. What?
So we have to let you go too.
This was helpful. So I should block him, reblock him.
Well, I always say you're blocking, as long as you're not blocking him to get a reaction from you.
I'm not. Okay. No, I don't want that.
But I hope that you are done with this guy. I hope that you've decided you don't really need him to explain himself. The answer to all your questions is he's a jerk.
Right.
And him realizing that 2 years from now and saying, you know, maybe 2 years from now you get a random email saying, hey, I really hate how I treated you when we redated. That's the best you're going to get. And if that happens, great. But when it does 2 years from now, you won't give a fuck.
Yeah. And I don't expect that. And I don't need that to move forward.
So block him, you know?
Okay.
And then listen, you're going to have moments where his comments still hurt, and that it is okay. You just have to remind yourself to not go down the rabbit hole. You just say, that's a him problem.
Not worth it.
It's not worth it. You look great. I'm proud of you. You're crushing life. There's plenty of people out there who are going to appreciate and love and find what you're doing to be a very attractive thing. I think you just got to find more successful men. You know?
Oh, yeah. He would be. I don't even know if he found out like I was on here. He used to hate that I listened to this.
Well, I don't really care what he thinks, but when you get back out there and dating, what your partner is doing for a living and their passion for what they're doing it should be something that you are always considering.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because I didn't.
The lovable, funny guy who doesn't know what he wants to do with his life is like who makes you feel good, in the first couple dates because he's just a funny, lovable guy who's just like, I'm career oriented. I could be the breadwinner. Yeah, that may be true.
Right.
But that fun, lovable, funny guy who doesn't know what he wants to do with his life and kind of, complains about his job, that is a recipe for disaster for someone like yourself who likes to work, who is focused on their career, who loves what they do, is inspired by the work that you're putting into your career. If they don't have their shit figured out, unfortunately, for someone like yourself, that's going to create conflict in a relationship. So if nothing else, you learn that at a very early age.
Yeah, no, that's good to know because I wouldn't go into something thinking like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't live like that, like resenting people who are.
That's because because you're a winner. You're not a loser. Because you are focused at what you have. You do have the benefit of knowing what you want, and you are inspired by that. So you just have a different approach. The reason why you're attracted to success because you're successful. You're not intimidated by success. When you see successful people, I imagine that you ask them questions, that you're curious.
I am. I'm like, I can learn from you.
You're like, how did you do what you did? You're not like jealous of them. You don't, there's a lot, when people start, when you see other people have success, Pay attention to how other people respond to that success. Are those people cutting them down? Are they making excuses for the success, or are they complimenting them? Are they being like, that's really cool what they did. I wonder how they did that. Did they become curious, or did they become critical? And the ones who are critical of other people's success, pay attention to that, because they're going to be critical of you too.
Yeah, no, that's like really good to know. And that's helpful.
And the reason you're not is because you're not threatened by other people's success, because you know you're willing to do the work, you know?
Yeah, I love to do it.
Yeah. And that is something, if nothing else, you learn that. And that is someone like yourself with your personality is a very important lesson.
Yeah, no, and like I was oblivious to that. So that's major.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we got to that big takeaway. All right.
No, thank you. All right. Let me go to class. Thank you guys so much.
Keep crushing life.
Thanks. I'll do my best.
Take care. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Life can be stressful. Having a kid, but not having your honeymoon.
There's nothing better than prioritizing your mental health.
That's absolutely true.
And it's extremely easy to do with BetterHelp.
That's right. BetterHelp is making it easier than ever before to prioritize that mental health, because they make it easy to connect with the therapist that you can connect with, and they make it affordable and more convenient. The thing about BetterHelp is that it's more affordable than in-person therapy, and they're working with thousands of new therapists every day. So the chances of you connecting with a therapist that you feel comfortable with is easier than ever before. I mean, that's the big challenge of getting into therapy. It's like, well, how do you start? Where do you go? You know, usually that's something you'd want a recommendation for, but it's not always like something you want to ask a friend about. Well, just go to BetterHelp.com and take a quick assessment of what you're looking for, and they will match you with a mental health professional in just a few hours. You can be having your first therapy session tomorrow if you go to BetterHelp today. Doesn't matter what your issues are, money problems, personal life, relationship problems, just general anxiety. BetterHelp is here to get you to where you need to be mentally. Get back on the right track with BetterHelp. We can't say enough of good things about what they have done for our listeners, and they can have the same benefits for you. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/VIALL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/VIALL. Well, you know, I'm a grinder. I grind my teeth. And other than just helping it with my fantastic jawline, it's not necessarily great for your teeth. Well, there is this really cool company in my hometown of Waukesha, Wisconsin. I said it before. Like I said, I grind my teeth. And Sporting Smiles crafts custom night guards. I've been using them for the past few months, and it feels great. Less headaches, less grinding. There's no going to the dentist. It's all done 100% online, and it's super easy to do.
They also make retainers, custom whitening trays. It's the same quality as the dentist, but without the hassle of going there. It's extremely easy. They send you everything you need. You make the mold, you send it back, and a dentist makes it perfectly tailored to you.
And voila, Sporting Smiles serves the entire United States, and they've got a sale going on right now where you can save 10% on all their orders with promo code VIALL10. Check out my hometown company, Sporting Smiles, for your dental product needs. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm Sophie. I'm 27 years old, and I feel like I am in a love triangle with my boyfriend's mom.
Okay, tell us more.
Alrighty, so just from the beginning, me and my boyfriend, we started dating in 2022. We both worked at the same place in TV news, and so we really hit it off. And then kind of mid-2022, he said that his mom wanted to meet me, and so he was moving out of one apartment going to the next. And so then I was like, well, I can help you move, and then his mom was going to be there as well. So I was like, fine, we'll just meet doing that. I thought it was going to be no big deal at all, and I should say, like, he is a Black man, and so I thought 2024, the way he was talking as well, it wouldn't really be an issue. But I met her for the first time, and the first thing she says is, sorry, we're meeting under these circumstances. And it's very like cold and kind of shut off.
What were the circumstances?
And like just moving him into a new apartment. And so then I was like, oh, like this is fine with me. Like, it's so nice to meet you. He's talked a lot about you. I'm excited to meet the family. And my family, they're all loud and all over the place and stuff. So they're very loud to him and like, make yourself all that. So I was kind of caught off guard, just the way she treated me a little bit. And so then I went back to his mom's house with him because we had to spend the night with her. And she told me, she was like, you can just stay in the back bedroom. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, if you want me to sleep there, that's fine. And then she didn't say anything else. Like, he went on to bed, she went on to bed. And that was it. That was our whole interaction for the 2 days. And so I thought it was going to get better as she got to know me, but it hasn't. It's gotten worse. I jotted down just a few things so I wouldn't forget, but she has, like, I've heard her yelling on the phone to my boyfriend about how I've taken her son and all this stuff. And he was already like, he's an adult. He's a grown
How old is
man,
he?
moved out, had a full-time job before he even met me. And so no circumstances, like nothing has changed since we started dating, other than he has a girlfriend.
Well, how old
But
is
he
he?
still goes, he's 25.
Okay.
And so he still goes home to visit and everything. And so she basically, I was talking with some of the family members because his other family, like his dad, his stepmom, his sister, everybody else has been super, super sweet and welcoming to me. And it's literally just his mom, but he's the closest to his mom. And so it's like, I really want us to get along. But his other family members, they're like, well, I'm surprised he's even in a relationship because it was a running joke in our family, but not really a joke, that he would never even have a girlfriend or ever get married because of her. She's really protective. She's really
Have you
jealous.
talked?
It's a her thing.
Have you talked with your boyfriend about these comments the other family members make?
I have.
And
So he has tried to talk with his mom, and his mom, of course, says, like, she has no reason to text me. We're almost 2 years into dating now. Has no reason to text me, has no reason to check in with me. It will just be random at this point, that she doesn't have an issue. And he was like, Mom, you clearly, I don't, like, I'm not accusing you of having an issue, but these are actual, like, these are real concerns. And she'll, like, yell on the phone, like, not to put all of his eggs in one basket with me, that she doesn't think it's gonna last, like, I'm gonna hurt him. And so then I even brought up, I was like, is it a race thing? Is it because, like, I'm white? And she's made comments thinking that I'm very white privileged. And
okay.
so he's like, I don't want to think my mom's racist, but we do need to have those hard conversations. And of course, she denies that. But then,
But based
like,
off what
recently,
you're telling me, and I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, but his like before this, you told me how there was this running joke between him and his family that the only woman he's going to have in his life is his mom and yada, 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 and all those things, right?
right.
I'm aware of a lot of white families and a lot of white sons who have very codependent relationships with their mom. The Jewish community is famous for that as well. I mean, a lot of communities are. It's like
Yeah.
I think this is across every religion and every race and sexual orientation or whatever. Is that in a lot of times the relationship between a mom and a son can be a little toxic and a little unhealthy, right? And I get where your question comes from because you're just grasping at straws here, just trying to figure out, like, oh my God, like why does this woman hate me so much? And so without knowing that much, the information you're telling me is that this has to do with his relationship with his mom and has nothing to do with you. So it has nothing to do with what you believe
Right.
in or what you look like or anything. This is everything to do with his relationship with his mom and that history. And I don't know their history. I do know, based on what you told me, that his mom got divorced from his biological father. His father got remarried. Sounds like they're in a somewhat healthy relationship, maybe some healthy boundaries. Is his mom dating?
She's married, so they don't live under the same roof, but they have a child together and they're still married. And so his stepmom, my boyfriend's stepmom, actually, she was asking how our relationship was and stuff like that. And then as I got to know her more, I did feel comfortable. I was like, I just, like, kind of have a question, just kind of navigating his mom in a relationship like that, since you also know her. And she was like, oh, for some reason, like, she's jealous of me and what I have with their biological father. And this has been 20 years. She's like, it's not a you thing, but it is a conversation, like, you and your boyfriend need to have. And a couple comments that caught me off guard was, I was talking with my boyfriend about his little brother coming over to visit us and hanging out. And then my boyfriend was like, well, I don't think my mom would be okay with that. I'm already living with you. I don't think she wants another son to come into a white family's picture. And so then I was like, if we're gonna, like, this is very hard to navigate. And then I think we were having a really, really deep conversation. I think it was just last week. So recently I was talking to him just about some of the concerns. And I was like, I feel like now that I like met your biological father and your stepmom, it's kind of made me fall in love with you even more. And he was like, why? And I was like, well, it's kind of like a safe place. Like, I know I have somebody in your family to go to, other than just like your sister and my family. And so I was like, I really enjoyed meeting them. And so we were kind of like throwing it all out on the table. And so last year I was involved in a sexual assault incident. And it was a night that my boyfriend went home for his birthday. And then I was on my night side shift. It was still happening while I was on the clock. So then the next morning, because I was held all night. So then the next morning I was talking to my boyfriend about it. And then my boyfriend recently told me, he was like, well, during that conversation when I was at home with my mom, she was like, oh, of course this would happen. Of course she would do this on the first night you're home. So it distracts you from me having you all to myself.
Do what? What is she accusing you of doing?
Just talking to him and letting him know like this happened.
So communicating to the boyfriend that you were a victim of SA?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
And so that was
this
kind
is
of
like, but this is like, there's a through line here, is that, again, she is willing to use anything against you. It has nothing to do with you. You've even heard this through other people who have a deeper history with you. And so this mom is hell bent at controlling her son's relationships.
And he's even told her, he's like, the way you're acting towards my girlfriend, like there's going to be clear bound, like this isn't helping you. It's not going to make me leave her. It's going to make me draw farther away from you.
Good for him for saying that.
And he's like really stood his ground, because in the beginning of the relationship, he was kind of like, well, I don't know, like if this is going to go far, I don't know. So he was completely like 100% mama's boy. But now he is like, I am completely committed to you. I don't want you to go anywhere. So I'll stand my ground with her. And so she just keeps bringing up like the sexual assault thing, that it doesn't make sense to her if he goes with me to a court date or anything like that. That will bring his attention more on me. And so it's just weird things. And like I think he talked to her, I think it was yesterday. He had like a very serious conversation, because it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. So he had a really like deep conversation with her about it. And he was like, you've had her number for 2 years. You know nothing about her. You don't know anything about her life, what she's been through. You haven't even cared to pick up the phone and just say like, hey, thinking about you. Hope your week goes well, anything like that. And she's like, because it's just going to be random. I don't want to text when it's just going to be random. And he's like, everybody else has done it. You can't keep making these excuses.
Sure. Yeah.
And she just keeps, and so then she's just like, well, I like her style. I know that about her. And it's like, I like a lot of people's style that I have no clue who they are. Like, that doesn't mean anything. So I am in therapy, and it was something that I brought up to my therapist about how to navigate it. And she's like, you have so much trauma and other stuff you're going through, with like grief of a job I worked my butt off for, and friendships, and then this whole thing that I'm still going to court for. She's like, we're going to put his mom on a back burner for a little bit. But he keeps saying like he feels like he's in the middle, and we don't really know how to navigate it. It's up, like he's just like, it's up to her. She just needs to prove herself. And I feel like he's going to be completely destroyed if she never does anything to make steps with me.
So what have you said?
Like,
what have you said to him about that?
I've told him, I was like, I don't want it to be like you're in the middle of us, and it's I'm pulling you away from your mom, or your mom's pulling me away from the earth. Like he said, she said stuff like a weird.
Have you ever asked him to not talk to his mom? Have you ever asked him to? Have you ever tried to come in between him and his mom?
No, the only thing. They were brought up, everybody is still in the religion that he was in, but since he has stepped out of that religion, and so he's not really a part of it, he's holding on to his past because that's what made him him.
Sure.
But he's not active in it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where a little bit of her, like, you changed my son, I can't get him back, that type of thing.
But we all know
like
that you
kind of...
didn't. And most importantly, it sounds like your boyfriend knows.
Right.
And then I guess my question, like, what were you hoping that we could help you out with?
I think navigating the situation, because with my boyfriend, with him saying he feels like he's in the middle of this, I don't want him to feel like he's in the middle, and I want him to...
Have you asked him what he means by that?
Yeah, he just says that he wants our worlds to collide, and he's like, I don't know why.
And what have you said to him in response to that?
And I told him, I was like, I would love our worlds to collide too. I want nothing more than like a future mother-in-law for me to do stuff with. If it's just hanging out, go grabbing coffee. And I said, but I can't make her talk to me. I can't make her do anything.
And what does he say?
Here. And he's like, I feel like you may just owe her a conversation, or you need to come around more.
How can you come around more? On what?
And that's what I told him. I was like, well, I don't feel like visiting or coming around when I've completely been told, like, when you come, stay in the back room, or like, I actually didn't want to meet you last year. It was too soon. And I was like, I just don't feel like meeting her right now. And so I don't know if it's kind of like an ego thing I just need to push aside.
So that's the one, because like, okay, so that's the one note I have for you. Because honestly, a lot of what you're talking about, it seems like this could be worse, because in all these situations, when you have this kind of unhealthy relationship between a parent and a child that you're kind of caught up in, as you've realized, you're kind of helpless because it really has nothing to do with you. You could be literally anyone. Like, your boyfriend's straight, he dates women, so it could be literally any woman. You know, if your boyfriend was gay, he would have the same problem with his boyfriend. You know, doesn't matter the color of his skin. This has everything to do with his mom having very little control in her life, you know, and her life not working out in a way that she probably hoped. And when it comes to being a parent, as we talk about a lot on this show, like the definition of being a parent is kind of having total control over your child's life. You know, it's like their responsibility. You get to raise them, and it's very rewarding and all those things. But for some people, they unfortunately like lean into that power and control they have over their kids because they feel very powerless in other aspects of their life. Even if they have the best intentions, they kind of lose sight on what it is to be a parent, you know? And so you really have to remember, there is literally nothing, this is not about you, you know? It is not a reflection of you or anything you've done or who you are or your past or who your family is, the color of your skin, your religious beliefs. From what I can tell, this woman was going to have a problem with literally anyone. And then she was going to figure out, the more she learned about whoever her son was going to date, because everyone has their shit, everyone has a family, everyone comes from somewhere. And as soon as she figured out where her values don't align with yours or vice versa, she was going to weaponize that against you. And it really doesn't matter what it was. And so it's just really important for you to know that, right? And once you know that, that's where the only thing you can try to do is to not do that last part, to not do things out of spite or stubbornness, you know, to not give her what she wants. What she wants there to be confrontation between the two of you. She wants it to be adversarial. She wants to accuse you of something, and she wants you to react. She wants to create a love triangle between you two, right? She wants her son to feel like he has to pick between you and her. And she wants her son to make him feel like it's you making him choose, right? So you have to do whatever you can to not take the bait, right? So the only thing, and it sounds like your boyfriend, which sounds good for you, is that for the most part, he's kind of saying a lot of the right things. Like, he's realizing that this is his mom. He's realizing it's not you. So you just have to not give her, you know, again, you have to not take the bait. And the bait is saying things like, well, I just don't want to meet her right now. Because that's what his mom would say, you know? The bait is getting so frustrated with how she's handling it that you fight fire with fire. You can't fight fire with this person because that's what she wants. Between you and him, all you can say to him is, babe, I love you. And obviously, you know, when it comes to the things that you are appreciative about the relationship, to always remind him, I love, you know, obviously your relationship with your mom is important. And I love that you love your mom. But obviously, like you said, I want to have a relationship with your mom and I'll do whatever I can, you know, because he can't pick his mom. So there's nothing he can do about that. So all you can do is be just as empathetic and understanding about his mom. You're going to have to you're going to have to put up with her bullshit in a sense. But you know what I'm saying? To a degree. And I guess I want to articulate that. But putting up with her bullshit is just not taking the bait, because you can still set a boundary and stand your ground, with him about how his mom treats you. And you can still expect your boyfriend to, at the appropriate time, to stand up for you in his relationship. Because it comes down to him and how he handles and how he stands up for his mom,
Right.
But you never want to give him the bait. You just say, I love you. And I hope I will do whatever I can to have a relationship with your mom. I hope she gives me the chance, and I will give her almost unlimited chances to allow me to have a relationship with her because I love you. And just know that whenever your mom is willing to come around, I'll be there to do my part to try to have the best relationship I can with your mom, but I can only do so much. I can't make her like me. I can't make her want to hang out with me. I can't make her reach out. If you want me to reach out, I will. Tell me to reach out to your mom, but just, up until this point, it hasn't gone very well. But whatever you want me to do, I'll do. I'll do it because I love you. But at the end of the day, your boyfriend needs to understand, and what you can say to him is, I can't fix this relationship with your mom. And the reality is, when it comes to a relationship with his mom, it's just it's like someone dealing in a situation with a fuckboy. His mom is not going to change until she has to. And she's not going to have to change until your boyfriend makes her. So it's not you making him pick. You're never going to make him pick. But it comes down to him realizing that your mom's never going to respect your decisions until you make her respect your decisions. And that is not allowing her to think that she can manipulate and say some of these hurtful things and make you feel bad about your choices. That's what it comes down to. And then when he does stand up to his mom, be appreciative. I'm proud of you. It's not empathy. It's not, I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. I'm sorry you have to deal with your mom making you feel bad about these choices. And I'm really sorry that that I hate that I'm a part of it. It's not you. It has nothing to do with you, but you can still, you know what I'm saying? You can still try to, because it must be very frustrating for him, right? He must be very frustrated. He doesn't want to disappoint his mom, but he knows what his mom is doing is wrong. And it's a very challenging position he is in. So the more you can do to just be that supportive person, as long as he's not willing to throw you under the bus, does that make sense?
Yeah. And so then I have another question. So his sister is getting married in a couple of months, and hopefully we're on better terms than we are right now, me and my boyfriend's mom. But for an example, at his sister's baby shower a couple months ago, me and my boyfriend, we were dancing on the dance floor and everything. There was a DJ, and it was really, really fun. And so we're both big dancers. So we were the last ones standing out there dancing. And then she saw that and went and literally got in the middle of us dancing. So then I just kind of acted like I was hot, I was burned out, I was worn out, I was just gonna go sit down and get some water. And so I just let it go and just sat down in a chair. And I'm kind of afraid, it was very awkward. And I'm kind of afraid, what if that happens, at a wedding in front of more people? Kind of what would be the appropriate and mature response for me to handle this when it's I want to dance with my boyfriend, but not with his mom too.
I mean, unfortunately, probably the best response is to not react, especially in public settings. You just can't fight fire with fire. My solution is a very frustrating one. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm telling you to basically always take the high road, to turn the other cheek, to bite your upper lip type of thing, and then talk to your boyfriend in private, offline, not at these events, to not, never make a scene. His mom makes a scene, you know what I'm saying? So fighting fire with fire would be to, at this wedding or whatever, to pull him, start yelling at him, to be why are you letting your mom do this? This is emasculate him. And I can't believe you're letting your mom, that would be the worst thing you could do, because he's already dealing with that from his mom. You know, so show him through your actions of how, because I promise the less you act like his mom, the more he's going to appreciate. The last thing he wants is another controlling woman in his life who makes him feel like he's not making good choices for himself. So, you can say, hey, that, obviously that was upsetting, and see what he says, but don't make him feel like it's his fault. And whatever his mom's going through, he didn't create. He wasn't even alive when his mom experienced whatever childhood trauma that she experienced that's causing her to act the way she did today.
Right.
So, you know, hey, I'm really sorry that happened, you know, and then hopefully he says, yeah, well, I'm sorry that happened to you. And then you can say, yeah, it's frustrating. I know we're both, you got to share in his frustration, because you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sucks that we have to deal with this, but I'm glad we have each other. And every time you can appreciate something about what he does to protect your relationship with him, show that appreciation. In that particular instance, when you guys get home and you're not around other people, you can say, you know, because he's going to be expecting you to be really pissed about his mom doing that. And again, you have every right to be pissed. Right. But you saying, hey, I'm really sorry that you had to deal with that, because again, imagine how you must feel. That's fucking embarrassing. I couldn't imagine my mom doing that in public. That's fucking crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And so the last thing he wants is his girlfriend yelling about him about how his mom acted. And a lot of people in your shoes would act that way. They would yell at him and be like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But instead, you're just like, hey, I'm sorry that happened. And then that will give him an opportunity to say, well, I'm sorry you had to deal with that too. And then you could say, listen, we can't choose our parents, but I just want to say I am grateful for you being willing to stand up to your mom. I just want you to know I will never make you choose between me and your mom. But I do appreciate you protecting our relationship and you standing up for me. But I'm never going to ask you not to have a relationship with your mom. I'm never going to ask you not to talk to her. I'm never going to come between you, as long as you're willing to defend our relationship to her. And as long as he's willing to do that, you have no reason to come in between him. And you'll never do what his mom's doing. And the more you show that you're not his mom in that way, I feel like as long as he's, you know, one or two things are going to happen. Either he's going to choose his mom or he's going to appreciate that you're not his mom. And if he chooses his mom, then you kind of have his answer. Then there's kind of no hope for him. You know what I'm saying? Like if all you are is understanding and through your actions, you're always willing to like, all right, well, if you want me to do this, like if he comes to say, can you just call my mom? Can you just do that? Instead of saying, well, she wouldn't do that to me, or she, you know, blah, blah, blah. Instead of letting your pride and frustrations get the best of you, being willing to do those things so that at any point he can never look at you and be like, you're just like, you know, you did this. You're giving your boyfriend no reason to get mad at you and every reason to be frustrated at his mom. And if he is capable of standing up to his mom, he will. And if he's not, you need to know that sooner than later.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But your therapist is right. You have so much going on. Like there's nothing you can do to control this woman. You can't change this woman. All you can do is make sure that you and your boyfriend continue to be on the same page and not give his mom any ammunition for her to say, see, I told you so. She's trying to tear us apart. Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, I'm not. I mean, what do you want? I'm with potluck. We don't come over for potluck. You want to sleep over? You know, you're willing to take the punches from his mom, so to speak. And because it never gives him, you're going to show through actions that you're never willing to come in between his mom, because, you know, we can't choose our parents.
Right. Like he's mentioned before, he's like, she just says that in order for her to be okay with us together, she just needs proof. And I'm like, what proof does she need? Like, what proof does she need? I was like, I can't.
Well, how does your boyfriend say that? Did your boyfriend agree with her?
No, so he says, like, all the proof she needs is how happy I am with you.
There you go.
I think that's what's frustrating her.
And then you say to him, well, I just want to say thank you, because I know how difficult it can be to have a very controlling parent. So it really makes me feel good that you are willing to fight for our relationship. And thank you. And just so you know, I will always go out of my way, no matter what your mom says or does. I will always try to have a relationship with your mom. And I promise you that I will never make you choose between you and your mom. If your mom makes you choose between me and her, I will be always appreciative of you, of you choosing me and you choosing us, but I will never make you do that. And then you follow through with your actions. Mm-hmm. And the best we can hope for is your boyfriend realizing what he has with you, being appreciative of, and finally saying, Mom, I'm sorry you're disappointed. I don't care what you think about her. I love her. She's a good person. And you need to start treating my girlfriend and maybe future wife or fiance or however your relationship advances, you need to treat her with respect. And if you can't, Mom, then that's going to affect our relationship. And Mom, she is not making me have this decision. This is coming from me. And like the moment you respect my decisions, we can have a healthier relationship. And someday, hopefully he says that to his mom. But as long as he is willing to show you with his actions that he's willing to protect you and your relationship and stand up to anyone, including his mom, you will never make him choose his mom. You will always put up with her bullshit as long as he's willing to stand up for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that is helpful. Because now I just know how to like kind of navigate it a little bit more and be there for him.
Yeah.
Because he is exhausted and burnt out and frustrated.
And that's the thing, because like you don't play into it. You're not in a love triangle. So get that narrative out of your head. What you are is dealing with a very kind of controlling parent who only can feel validated and powerful through controlling her son. And be thankful that your son, for the most part, handles it a lot better than other people do. Because a lot of people aren't willing to say some of the things he's been already saying to you and to his mom.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't fight fire with fire, and as long as you don't say, when your boyfriend says, hey, I know my mom's being X, Y, or Z, but could you do this? You say, for sure, I'm happy to do it. I don't know if it's going to go the way you hope, but I'm more than happy to do it. And I'm more than happy to go out of your way because I want you to feel like I'm there to help you. Because I know you're there to help me.
That makes sense. And I think that's where my ego, I need to push that aside because it's like so much like, if she doesn't respect me, why should I do this?
Yeah. Well, this is right up there with it. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And so you have the right to be mad at her. You have the right to say, you know what? If you're not going to treat me with respect, why should I treat you with respect? That is your right. But it might not get you to be happy because what you want is a happy relationship with your partner. And honestly, this woman has nothing really to do with that. And as long as he chooses you, you have a chance to be happy with your partner.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. This helped a lot.
I'm really sorry you are having to go through it, especially when it comes to the essay stuff, because obviously that must, the victim blaming on her end, despite, we can make sense of why she's doing what she's doing, but it obviously is still very hurtful to have someone weaponize that against you.
Yeah. And it's like going through that is a nightmare in itself when I have my boyfriend's mom even say things like that. It's like,
it's terrible. It's terrible. And so it must make it even more difficult for you to take the high road. But this is not a you versus her. This is all about you trying to protect the relationship you have with your boyfriend. And it sounds like, despite all these issues, it sounds like you have a pretty good thing with him. And it sounds like, I've heard a lot of worse situations with sons and their moms, and it sounds like he understands he might need to make some tough decisions with his mom and set some boundaries. And so there's a lot of potential here, and I'm optimistic for you.
Yeah, he's great, especially just listening, because I probably do vent to him too much about my thoughts about her sometimes when I hear things she says.
Yeah.
But he's really great at, let me just try to do what I can since I am her son.
So the best thing you can do is find other people to vent about his mom to other than him. And just as far as he's concerned, you're like, I'm really sorry you have to deal with this. And I promise you, if he's the guy we think he is, when you're like, hey man, I'm sorry your mom does this to you, he will be like, well, I'm sorry she does it to you. And you guys can bond over being frustrated with his mom, rather than making it adversarial, rather than him be like, well, why does your mom fucking do this? He doesn't have an answer to this. He wishes he could change his mom, Like, I don't know what it's like to have a parent like that, but I imagine it must be very defeating because you can't pick your parents and you can't sit there and give them therapy, like you're their kid. And it's it's a very helpless feeling trying to deal with parents who use their kids to make them feel better about themselves. And so your boyfriend's in a very helpless situation. So the best thing you can do is empathize with him and then take your frustrations and find more productive ways to express them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. Well, please keep us posted how this goes. We have a lot of people listen who have problems with in-laws. So, if this goes, whether you take our advice or not, we'd love to see how it plays out. And maybe there's something you'll learn from this experience that you can share with our audience in the future.
Absolutely. I'll let you know how the wedding dancing goes at his sister's wedding. Hopefully his mom doesn't come in between.
Well, expect the worst and hope for the best. That's all you can do. And again, use this an opportunity to bond with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
You kind of without trying to talk shit about his mom. Let him talk shit, and you're just like, yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But I think one thing you do want to say at some point is just say, when you get off the call with us sometime this week, you just say, hey, can I just say, thanks for always standing up for us when it comes to your mom. And I'm sorry if I've ever made you feel like you have to choose between us. Yeah, I'm frustrated with the way your mom handles it, but I know that's not your fault. And just know that you have my back. You can count on me to do anything I can to help, have a relationship with your mom. And I will always take the high road, and I'll never make you feel like you have to choose between us. And that's my promise to you. As long as you are always willing to protect us and stand up to me, I will do that. Stand up for me, rather. And I think that'll go a long way.
Definitely, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, take care.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Listen, we love our dogs. And we even love Steve, even though he's a bit of a terror. They always say your first child is going to be well-behaved, and if that's the case, your second child is going to be a maniac. And Steve is a maniac. Unfortunately, he eats everything. So he swallowed an entire shirt once, and thankfully he puked it back up. But that immediately, we thought to ourselves, we need to get some pet insurance, because at some point Steve might eat something that might require surgery, and that could cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's why today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Health Insurance Program.
It's always smart to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier for pet parents like you to help your pet get the care they may need. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program has been around for over 18 years, and they've helped more than 600,000 pets during that time.
They allow you to customize your plan, helping ensure that your pet's plan is as unique as they are. Because vet bills can really add up, especially when you're least expecting it.
It's simple. Use their app to submit a claim, and you'll receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account.
To explore coverage, visit ASPCAPetInsurance.com/VIALL. That's ASPCAPetInsurance.com/VIALL. Again, that's ASPCAPetInsurance.com/VIALL. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independent American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer, and it is not engaged in the business of insurance. How's it going?
I am Chad. I'm 34, and I have a guy that is obsessed with me, but I keep blowing him off.
Okay. What can we help you with? What's the problem? Because, listen, it sucks to be awesome and desirable, but you don't have to like everyone who likes you. So in terms of blowing him off, are you feeling guilty? What is the problem, other than being so hot that you have guys coming for you?
Right. Yeah. I think because I haven't really dated a lot in the last, oh my God, 10 years. The last real serious relationship that I had, he cheated and ended up giving me HIV. And I only found out because I went to just randomly get tested, was found out, confronted the guy, and he was like, oh yeah, I had known for quite some time. I was going to tell you, just didn't know how, type of thing. So that's really kind of put a damper on trust, I feel. And the guy that texts me a lot and stuff, he knows all of this. It didn't scare him away, thank God. But it's like I'm always trying to figure out an exit plan, if that makes sense, to avoid, if anything were to happen, I'm the one to kind of cut it off before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry that happened to you. That must have been a very traumatic experience.
Yes, thank you.
How long ago were you diagnosed?
When I was 22.
How old are you again?
34.
Okay. So you've had a while to process this, but it's probably it's been something you've been dealing with for a long time.
Right.
So it almost sounds like when we get it, we should probably change his headline at the end of the call. Because to me, it sounds like your real problem is your fear of being accepted now that you have this diagnosis.
Well, and he does check off a lot of the boxes that I would look for in a partner and stuff. He is very intelligent. He is always asking me out to like do things and stuff, and I will like I'll respond, but like not give like a definite like date to do something, because we've only really been on one date, and which was really nice, but like I lied and said I had to pick up my sister from the airport to like kind of end it a lot earlier than it was supposed to be. And he just keeps like he keeps trying, and I do appreciate it. I'm just trying to find out like why I'm not, I guess, accepting of a lot of like his very honest.
Are you attracted to him?
I am.
Do you like him?
I do. He's like, because he's a lot of things. Like I said, he's very intelligent. Like he will send me all of these like books and stuff that he's reading and wants me to read them, and he wants to know a lot about like me, and like he's interested in getting to know me like deeply, which I appreciate. It's just I feel like there's just this barrier of me trying to break through like, I guess, past trauma and thinking that, you know, while things and like he's really great, but like it's like I'm fearing like the possibility of something happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I literally can only imagine. So have you had any serious relationships between now and when you found out that you were HIV positive?
I've had one, but that was years ago. But we were just kind of talking, and then that kind of fizzled out. But I hadn't been like in a relationship since then.
Are you in therapy? Have you been to therapy?
I am.
You are? Okay. Do you talk with your therapist about that very traumatic experience about it's one thing to be cheated on. That's traumatic in itself, but then to have that cost you so much, you know? Thankfully, there's been so much, obviously, advancements when it comes to treating HIV, and my understanding, it's no longer a death sentence, you know, which is amazing.
Undetectable,
you can get, you know, so that's awesome. But nevertheless, that is a very traumatic thing, you know. Herpes never killed you, but when people contracted like herpes through sex, you know, especially when they get cheated on, it feels like a death sentence to some people, you know, because it may not actually kill you. But as you know, now it's like no matter what, every person you're ever going to date for the rest of your life, you're going to have a very difficult conversation with them.
Yeah.
I'm HIV positive, or I have herpes, you know, and things like that for people who are and to be contracted through someone, you know, not because you made not because you didn't practice safe sex, or you were, you know, you were reckless with some of your decisions, and even then, like, you know, it's not like anyone's deserving of catching something, but when you contract something because someone misled you or lied to you, and you had, and there was nothing you can do other than, you know, your only defense to not getting HIV back then, I'm guessing in your like subconscious brain, was to not trust your partner. Like that's and in that moment, the only thing you could have done when your partner either did or didn't tell you, you know, I don't know if he was like guilty by admission or, you know, he lied about not having it, but either way, you chose to trust that man.
Right.
And you chose to engage in sex with this man, a person who was HIV positive, who knew they were HIV positive and didn't tell you about it. And so then after you found out, you kept thinking, wow, if all I did was not trust them, you know, I wouldn't have had that. So you have to deal with that thought for the best, you know, your only protection was to not trust. And so of course you have trust issues, right? Because, you know, if it, you know, in your brain, like 1 + 1 = 2, it was like, well, all I could do is, that was my only defense. So like when people contract these things, you know, because people lie to them, I can understand why it really fucks them up, you know?
Right. Yeah. And even speaking with my therapist, he told me that I need to not look at myself as the person that deserved for this to happen to, that it's not my fault, because through all of the years, I always carried that it was my fault that I ended up with this and that I was the one to blame. So I never like really, while I was like super upset, I took on a lot of the blame and guilt for it. And so that's like my trust and, and people has been very limited. And it was like a light bulb. And I was like, I have put a lot of blame on myself. And trying to kind of disassociate myself from that. It's definitely going to take some work. But it's like, I don't want to pass up at the same time a great opportunity because of my, I guess, current mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good that you're working on it with your therapist. They're the expert. But yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and even like again, blaming yourself it's so helpless to have something happen to you that you had no control over. And I got to assume like you blame yourself in some ways, you trying to take your power back,
Yeah.
This might be a bad analogy because I'm not trying to compare heartbreak with being diagnosed with HIV positive or, that trauma. But like, I just go back to like one of my really hard breakups. My girlfriend broke up with me. And the reality is she just liked another guy. We were young, we were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend. So like, she broke up with me. She didn't really tell me there's another guy, but that was the truth. But instead of just like being sad and hurt and accepting that my girlfriend at the time didn't want to be with anymore, I was just like, well, how can I blame myself? How can I figure out something I did wrong in this relationship so that I could fix the problem, And that was a way of trying to have some sort of control over my heartbreak. And so you being like, well, yeah, I could have done this. I could have done that. I could have done this. Again, is like you trying to figure out how you can protect yourself in the future by taking control of the choices you wish you would have made in the past.
Right.
So,
right.
This is all about understanding it, but how are we going to go about giving yourself a chance to find love?
I definitely want to, I want to give myself more credit, if that makes sense, and just realize that through, the traumatic experience that I did have, that I shouldn't remain in the mode of like, woe is me. Cause even like my best friends and stuff, I've talked to them ad infinitum about this. And, they agree that while the experience was traumatic, that I have to figure out when to, let it go, in that sense. And I feel as though with this guy that I need to just like step outside of myself and realize that, this is somebody who through, me blowing him off, like I can't even tell you how many times. And he continues to text me, like, if not every day, almost every day.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you sat him down, man to man, adult to adult, to just say, hey, listen, like I've told you about my diagnosis. Does he know that you were cheated on and how you were, how? Okay. And have you said to him, listen, it may not surprise you, but I have some trust issues given what happened.
I did.
And
I did. I did tell him that.
You did? Okay.
He was like, he's like, that's okay. I'm patient. I'll wait.
Okay. Great. Well, and that's fine if you're comfortable with it, but also you can say, listen, I appreciate your patience, but I need to take things slow because and that's the thing. The only thing you can do is try to go at a very slow pace. You got to tip your toes in the water, okay? I dipped my toes in the water. It was cold, but it didn't kill me, so to speak. All right. Now, you go in a little bit more, and every guy knows once they get up to the waist part, there's that, that plunge. But you go in, you kind of go in, right? And then if it's too much, you pull out a little bit, right? And so you got to approach your love life a little bit, communicate to them your reluctance, your, hey, you got some trust issues. I need to go slow. You say the words that this guy's obsessed with you. Okay, well, maybe he's used to like, winning people over by like, oh, I'm going to call you every day. I'm going to send all these gifts. I'm going to do all X, Y, and Z. Well, for someone who has trust issues, sometimes people being over the top and trying too hard can make you feel uncomfortable. It can feel disingenuous. It can feel like too much too soon. So you can say, listen, I really appreciate your patience, but also like I need you to pull back a little bit on all the things that you're doing. You know, you're not giving him anything, so you're playing a little bit of a game a little bit. So he's probably misreading what your actions, so to speak.
Right.
So I think you need to try as much as you can to just communicate how you feel, not play the game, not blow him off, not ghost him, you know,
right.
and just say, hey, you know, you saying, listen, I like you. And I like you a lot more than I have in the past. Isn't you saying I love you? It's not you saying you want to get married. It's not you committing your life to them. You know, you can say to a guy, I like you. You know, it's a little scary to like you. It makes me feel a little uncomfortable because the last time I really liked someone, I was really hurt. But if you're willing to go slow with me, I'm willing to keep trying, but I'm going to need your patience. And also, and then you can say, you know, if he puts on too much, he sends you a bunch of gifts, he's call you can say, hey, listen, I really appreciate all the things you're doing. And I really want to get to a place where all this generosity I'm able to like fully appreciate. But like right now, I need you to slow it down, you know, because being patient with someone is also kind of a willingness to go at their pace. I don't think he realizes, but like all these efforts he's making isn't him being patient. It's him trying to, you know, win you over by being more proactive. And his proactiveness is probably making you feel a little bit more uncomfortable and a little more uneasy. Because like nothing in life is free, you know? People don't give gifts to expect nothing in return. You know, people aren't generous for no reason. And so, and I'm not saying he's deliberately being disingenuous and he has alternative motives, but like this is how human nature works, right? So my guess is all his generosity subconsciously makes you a little nervous because you're always thinking, what is this going to cost me? What does he want from me? I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if he feels the same way I feel about him. So I'm reluctant to validate, you know, his generosity. So you probably handle it by blowing him off or ignoring him or things like that. Instead, just try to, you know, adult, man to man to say, hey, listen, I appreciate it. I really do. I'm just not there yet. So can we slow down? But I do like you and I don't want to, I want to explore this. And if you're willing to work with me and my trust issues, and if you're willing to, you know, go slow with me, I'm definitely willing to keep trying.
I like that. Actually. That's really good, solid, honest advice. And yeah, I'll definitely tell that to him because I think that's what I was kind of missing. Like, how do I like tell him without seeming that I don't know, but I like how you phrase that. So I'm definitely gonna take that and I'm gonna tell him that and see how that goes.
I think you just have to, more than anything, I want you to realize that you saying you like someone, it's okay. I would imagine you even have a lot of fear around validating anyone's feelings for fear that like what is that going to cost me? What am I going to have to do? What are they going to expect from me? I don't know if I'm there yet, you know. I could literally only imagine what that traumatic experience did to you and how it affects you dating in the future. So I have all the empathy in the world for you, but like you are allowed to like people, you know, you are allowed to date and give someone a chance. You are allowed to, you're allowed to like this guy and in 6 months from now, realize he's not your guy. And he might hurt your feelings too. He might decide he doesn't like you. And that could be a scary thing too. But just work on giving him a little bit of trust and seeing what he does with that trust. You know, like anything else, you're going to have to you need to be a little bit vulnerable because, and I get it why it's so scary for you to be vulnerable because the last time you were vulnerable, something terrible fucking happened, you know? So you're just going to have to practice giving him a little bit of vulnerability and see what he does with that, you know? And so a little bit of vulnerability in this situation is you just saying, hey, listen, can I be honest with you? I do like you. And honestly, it scares me a little bit because I'm afraid to like someone because of my trust issues. And I really appreciate your willingness to go slow with me. But what can I do to make sure that you feel validated, but at the same time, like go at my pace because and I do appreciate all the generous things you're willing to do for me. Know that they're appreciated, but it makes me a little uneasy because again, I'm just, I'm working through this. So you got to over communicate. You really have to try to just talk through it with these people.
Yeah.
And the more you communicate with people that you like, the more you give them an opportunity to show you that they can handle these tough conversations, that they can communicate. Because, with with something like with this happening to you, you're going to need to be in a relationship with someone who is a good communicator. You're going to have to be able from time to time to say, hey, time out. I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling uneasy. I'm not sure how to handle this. Is it okay if we talk about this? And you're going to need someone who says, hey, yeah, listen, it's okay. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down. What are you feeling? Let's get it out. That's what, you're going to need someone like that. But you're going to have to figure out who those people are. You're going to have to try to communicate. You're going to have to try to share your vulnerabilities. You have to try to share your expectations, a little bit at a time, see how they handle it, and give them an opportunity to say, that's okay. I'm here. Let's talk. I'm here to listen. Thanks for the feedback. I'll try to adjust, and to see where it goes.
I agree with that.
You don't have to do everything all at once, You don't have to, when someone says, I like you, I think you're hot, you're great, I would do anything for you. You don't have to promise the world to them. You don't have to give your heart to these people, and it can be scary to, have someone tell you how strong they feel for you and knowing what happened last time that happened. So
I agree.
I think it's also important to know that vulnerability is a strength. I know that's a simple statement, but if there's any sort of insecurity with just being vulnerable in general, that's your voice is your power, especially with your experience with your voice in your life path. And I think it's an amazing thing that he's accepting you for what you've experienced.
Right.
And I think you can maybe play into that as a way of putting more strength into your vulnerability and feeling more comfortable with expressing that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point as well.
I agree with that.
And your willingness to tell this guy, clearly you being honest about your HIV is, bare minimum. That is literally the right thing to do. You can still be proud of yourself for having the strength to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because clearly whoever did it, the person who did this to you didn't, And I'm not saying pat yourself on the back for doing the bare minimum, but it's still very difficult to sit anyone down and say, I'm HIV positive,
right.
And it's always going to be scary. And even though it's the bare minimum and it's your moral obligation to be honest about that, you can still give yourself credit. And to Justin's point, you can still recognize your vulnerability. You can still be proud of yourself for having the courage to, say this to people, because the other option is to just, live under a rock, not date at all, because you never want to admit to anyone that this happened to you, and you never want to tell anyone you're HIV positive. So you can just avoid romantic relationships altogether. And that's obviously not sustainable, but I would imagine there's people out there who do make that choice and do kind of self-isolate, and that sucks. So to Justin's point, it takes a lot to be vulnerable. It takes a lot to have the courage to tell these people what happened to you and hope that they accept you. That's very scary, but you should give yourself a lot of credit for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely it's a day by day type of thing, and I've now been doing therapy for 7-8 weeks. So
oh my God, you just started. That's first of all, awesome for going in it, but temper your expectations of what therapy is going to bring overnight. The fact that I'm actually glad to hear you just started it, because that tells me you probably have a lot of progress to make in a short period of time. Just so keep going, keep talking, keep working through that trauma, keep talking with your therapist about being, vulnerable with men that you date and how to handle feeling triggered. If this man and if you end up dating this guy and this relationship evolves, things are going to come up, you're going to get triggered. You're going to get scared, you might go through a honeymoon phase with this guy, and then, and then all of a sudden things get a little real. You get into the normal grind of a relationship. And all of a sudden you went from feeling like, oh my God, I'm actually happy with this man, to all of a sudden feeling scared to be truthful with him or worried that he might do the same thing. You don't know when you're going to be triggered. So, working through this with your therapist and knowing that things might come up is great, so, good for you for getting in there, and just stick with it, man. And keep working through this stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate both of y'all's input. It's good to hear, different perspectives and stuff. And so I'm gonna take what y'all said into account and definitely apply that ASAP.
Yeah, just talk with them, sit them down, and be like, you know what? Maybe ask them out on a date.
I could do that.
To be like, hey, you ask him on a date, you get some drinks, and you just say, thanks for coming on. And then also I want to say, like, I do appreciate everything you've done. This and say, be vulnerable. This was a lot for me to ask you out. I'm really working through some trust issues, as you know. I jumped into therapy, but like I see a lot of potential in you, and I think you're a great person, and you've done a lot of things that I'm not even used to. And I want to acknowledge that, and I think you're great, and I want to thank you for doing that. But and I'm sorry if I've been blowing you off, but again, I do want to reiterate that, like, I am a very slow burn, and you acknowledging that you're just entered into therapy and this is new for you, like, you're just setting the expectation with him that, like, hey, listen, just, I might not be ready for what you're ready for, but I am working on it. And, if you're willing to go at my pace, then I'm willing to try, but I need to take it slow because this is all very new for me. I've been kind of closed off to love and relationships for a very long time. So I'm a work in progress.
I'll do that. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate that.
All right. Well,
I appreciate that a lot.
Thanks for the call. Very sorry you had to go through this. And thanks for calling. This is obviously a very a challenging situation for you. Please keep us posted if you're willing. We'd love an update on
absolutely
on how you're working through this, and hopefully this is a step in the right direction for you. But good on you for getting back out there. You deserve love as much as anyone else, and you're certainly capable of finding it. You just have to work through some of these past traumas that obviously are very difficult to work through.
I agree. Yes, I'll definitely keep you all updated. Thank you so much for your time and words of advice. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
All right,
Take
bye-bye.
care.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to send in those questions at asknick@theviallfiles.com. See you tomorrow. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.